go back to the drawing board. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with every scientist being wrong. As long as they can say, you know what, I was wrong. I'm going to go back to the drawing board.
They don't do that, though. Don't they? They abuse their power. And they also use people as guinea pigs.
I hate to say this, but what else can you use as a guinea pig? People should, I don't think they should do it to people without them knowing. But
that's what they do, though. What do you think, for example, when people kidnap children or child abductions?
It's a few different things. Yeah, they're killing them. Some, they testing on some of it being sold into slavery.
You can't. I'm talking about literally child harvesting or organ harvesting through children. Let's say if somebody needs a liver implant or things of that nature, and the only blood type you match is this child over in Malaysia or things of that nature, right?
That's why I think it's a certain person on the earth that does that type of thing, and
That's okay, but you just said it, though. You said man has become like God on the earth, and they know that a child's organs can, if you put, let's say if you scrape some DNA off your rotten tissues, right, and you put it on a child's organ, it's still going to organically grow. But if you put it on somebody older and things like that, obviously you can't use that organ. If you get what I'm saying, that's what's going on with the whole child abduction. And they even are using children's brains even to put things in it and things of that nature.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of evil going on in this world, and I hate it. But I have one theory about children. And I think my wife said this to me. Children are legitimately the closest thing to God. Children.
That's what it's saying in Psalms, yeah.
Children, the moment they come into existence, the only thing they do is slowly forget God, because at that point in time, that consciousness was connected to just God. It was just literally the essence of life that God put into the mother of the child is so pure at the point of, development and birth, even into their toddler years. Children are taught to fear. Children don't back away from anything. They'll walk up to a hot ass stove and touch it, not knowing it's hot or even caring that they don't even care. They are invincible in their minds when they're children. They are the closest thing to God. So it wouldn't shock me that they can revitalize rotten tissue, because they're so close to God without the years of bad eating habits, the years of, the world bringing them down and weakening them mentally. They're just basically, in their mind, they're basically little gods walking around to me. They're fearless. They demand. They don't even ask for what they want. They demand what they want, and they expect to get it, and they get it. I demand to be fed. Feed me now. And every parent, and we are immediately subservient to that child. So I believe children are little gods walking around, and the older they get, the further they get from God.
That's everyone, right?
Every child, everybody that was born. Yeah, everybody that was born as a child. I don't think no one's inherently evil. I do believe the world molds you into it's not even a belief. It's so widely accepted that the world molds you in. I mean, I wouldn't even call it. It is a known fact that the world will mold you into what you become. You are only what you are at the age of 30 because of your experiences in the world and how you responded to them. That's that you're only what you are what you respond to. How you respond to a situation turns you out to who you are. You're created by God, but you basically recreate yourself. Where do you
so as a child, right? Then in essence, right, you saying a child has to grow to get closer to God.
No, I'm saying a child is as
close as you're gonna get to God then is until your death.
No, I mean, some people have reached enlightenment. I do believe there are people in this world that have reached enlightenment in some way, shape, or form, where they were able to mentally block out the horrors of this world and readdress themselves with God as God's children of the Most High God.
So are there other gods then on the earth? Does
We are
every
all God.
nation
I mean, the
does
Bible says it's simple. We are all gods, children of the Most High God, made in His likeness and image.
so why do everybody on the earth worship their own God then?
Because they foolish. Because the earth is full of lies. I won't consider them foolish. They're tricked. The earth is full of lies. There is a supreme ruler of this earth, and that supreme ruler of this earth feeds this world a ton of lies.
Ugh.
So because the earth is filled by lies, I mean, you got to keep in mind, at one point in time, you had pagans, you had Jewish people. At one point in time, you just had people that believed in God, people that walked the earth with God.
Well, what is the word God though? Like, when you can you break that down to me? Like, what do you believe is God? Because back in the word or the letter Gimal or G is not in none of those ancient texts.
Right?
It's either Elohim or Anunnaki or what.
Yeah. So
I'm
based off,
curious of what your concept of God is.
it's simple. God is. That's my concept of God. He just is. I don't know I don't know if there's a, a spirit. I don't know if there's I know for a fact it's not some white guy with a beard, but I don't know what form he takes. You know, I don't know how his existence it can be perceived in my eyes. I don't have a perception of his existence, but I have proof of it. My existence, my DNA code was written. DNA is written. It's a written code that makes DNA. Someone had to write the code for DNA. Someone put the earth far enough from the sun that it won't burn, close enough to the sun that it won't freeze, and two exoplanets to protect it with a gravitational spin from what I can't remember the metal or the mist on Earth, but the metals in the center of Earth produce a gravitational shield from solar flares.
So,
Somebody put
so who
salt in
made these biospheres there? Who made that? Are you
God.
say
I'm saying God did this. I don't know who he
so?
is or how he perceives himself. I can't perceive him. I don't know how to perceive him. I don't know what I can consider a God. I don't know what form he takes. I
But how
just
does
don't know.
one read about God? Where should one go study about God? If you want to know who God is, where should you go study about God? Should you
As
go to the
every
church? Because
no,
that's where everybody goes to now. You know what I'm saying?
I
I'm
don't believe
asking
that.
you, where
I
should you
believe
go to study where God is from?
you should go to everybody that believes in a God and have faith that you can put together the pieces of the puzzle. I do believe at some point in time, God made himself known to people on this planet and he gave them enough. And some people took that power and twisted it and used it to control the world. And I believe that he probably made himself available to different people on this planet. And every person became up with their own version or their own interpretation of what he tried to teach them. So I believe the answer to God is trying to understand Islam, trying to understand Judaism, trying to understand Hebrewism. I think they're the same thing. Hebrews and Jews are, and Judaism is the same thing, if I'm not mistaken. Trying to
Yeah.
understand Buddhism, trying to understand paganism, trying to understand every facet of what people believe, trying to sift through the lies of what they believe and find the truth of what they believe and see if there's some patchwork that you can do like pieces to a puzzle to see if there is a way you can formulate the truth about the real God. Because I believe this world is full of too many lies to take any one person's advice, any one study's advice. You would have to extensively search and study. And then you got to do the biggest and strongest thing, look inside yourself because he created you. And because he created you, it has to be a little bit of him in you. And just ask, ask God, present yourself to me. Please present yourself to me. Give me the way to study. It's not going to be easy. It shouldn't be easy. You're trying to understand something that understands everything. And that's not an easy perception to understand. I can barely understand gravity on a level past, American education. But I mean, we're trying to understand the guy that understood that we needed gravity, the guy that understood that we needed a sun, a guy that understood that our bodies need to be made up of water, that we needed to consume, that we needed to basically extract waste. We need to sweat to cool our bodies down, and we need to re-drink water to replenish our sweat glands. Somebody that understood so many things that we take for granted, things that we do without even thinking about doing. You don't have to ever think about going to the restroom to live. You just go. So understanding him is going to be some work. And I don't know. I don't have a, hey, this is where you go look first. I say just go look, but don't be closed-minded. First, open your mind up to any possibility. And don't be scared to accept the truth when it presents itself.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. I study that way. The way I study is I read pagan literature, I read the Bible, I read the Quran. I consider myself a teacher who searches for truth. Now, truth can only be substantiated by what? Facts, right?
Facts, exactly.
Facts, right? So, like you said, like someone who had the right calculations to put that sun there, because we know the sun is made out of hydrogen and carbon, right? It creates sulfur. That's what the sun is. And it creates enough gravitational pull considered to what some people want to say the earth is flat, but the nature doesn't prove that the earth is flat unless you're saying that the land is flat. But then I will argue to there because what are mountains then, or what are ditches? You see what I'm saying? And for something to hold water, for something to be able to hold water, right? I'm talking salt and fresh, right? Away from each other, somebody had to have the powers to do that or the control to do that. And from what I've been studying is that it ain't one God, but it's a group of gods. You see what I'm saying?
I've actually thought about that.
That's what most of even the Bible say that.
Yeah, the Bible speaks
but it's a Bible is a monotheistic book though. It talks about the God of the Jews, but yet also in the text it talks about other people's gods. And I go to the museums all the time where I see pagan literature who was written to pagan Moabites or pagan other people with culture talking about the Yahweh of the Shasu or the Israel, the God of Jacob. You see what I'm saying?
The one thing about the Bible, it doesn't speak of monotheism as much as people like to portray it to. Because the Bible it specifically says in the Bible, we are all gods, children of the Most High, made in his likeness and image. So doing a little research for Google users, Google likeness. Everybody knows what image means, but if you don't know what image means, Google image. So, I mean, my personal belief is when God speaks, he always speaks in we. I don't say when he speaks, but in the Bible, it speaks of we. Made, because it doesn't say made in my likeness.
Well, it say us. It say let us create
mankind.
Right? So the word us right there in Genesis lets you know that is plural. That's not talking about one God. That's talking about plural or a group of gods. Right? That's what the word
I can't remember what
Theos is.
I can't remember the prophet said that we are all. That said that God spoke to him and God basically explained that we are all gods, children of the Most High. It didn't say made in his likeness and image. It said made in our likeness and image. So if who's the we and who's the are? It's like, I believe that there is a supreme being that created everything. I do believe that there is a supreme being.
Right? Would you say he's the father?
I would say he's a father. He is the progenitor. I would just call him the progenitor of life, the progenitor of creation, a being that created himself somehow.
Without a mother or father, right?
Yeah, and I think from him, he basically put before you can have a species, before you can have a creation procreate, you have to first procreate. Before I can put a system in play for something I create to remake itself over and over again, I have to first remake myself. I have to first understand the science of remaking myself. So I believe there was a supreme God and he remade himself. And then he remade himself. And then he made his children.
How would you prove that though? What book would you use to prove that?
There's not a book. See, that's the worst part about. That's the part about the Bible that I don't like. I do believe the Bible is for limited thinking people. I think the Bible is basic study for Earth.
So what the Bible says that man was made from the earth, you disagree with that? You just said that now, don't.
I'm gonna say
you just said that's a beginner's book, and you said that
the Bible is made.
They don't got nothing to do with what man come from. Because
it's all about how you interpret that statement. No,
it's either gonna be dirt or clay. What man is?
It's all how you interpret made from the earth. Because if you're made from the earth
Right.
earth has more than just dirt
elements,
and clay on
right? It has elements and
the
all
dirt
that type of
has
stuff.
everything on the periodic table that we understand is on the earth. And our skin is made up of elements on the periodic table. Our flesh contains iron, carbon, well, not carbon, I'm sorry, iron, zinc, calcium for our bones. So when they say men are made of earth, for us to survive on earth, we have to have relatively similar attributes of earth so we can consume things on the earth and survive.
We do. So what is a vegan? Yeah. When somebody is a vegan, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I don't think
right.
Okay. I think man were made from the elements of the earth. I do believe man were made from the elements of the earth. I don't
the dirt, right? When you die, where do you go? What do they bury you at? Unless you're gonna be cremated. But why is it a custom of people, no matter your skin color, how you look, none of that, they put you back in the earth?
Not everybody. That's not even the widespread.
You saying that? So does not everybody do? So what is? So burial is not true?
Burial is true now, but it wasn't the first version of we burned it. We were burned. We basically incinerated our bodies.
According to who?
The Romans did it. The Greeks did it.
Yeah, for a sign of disrespect.
No, there was a actual warrior's death was to burn. Burn on the it was literally when you died, your body was burned and your bones. Some people's bones were saved. Cremation. We know the earliest form of
what did the ancient Egyptians do then? Right,
see, they cremated their bodies.
No,
they cremated their bodies and put them in sarcophagus.
Who's
Ramses? Egyptian royalty did use cremation. I mean, not cremate. I'm sorry, mummification. I'm sorry.
Okay, right. So that was the preserving of the body, right?
Yeah, they preserved the body.
Right.
I'm sorry. I said cremation. I meant mummification. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's either cremation or it got to be mummification. Now, the modern mummification, they put you on some clothes and put you in a casket. But back then, they preserved the flesh, because if you read the Book of the Dead, you get understanding about why they said that, because their understanding was that you will come back and you will inherit that flesh again. Yeah. So now, I'm not here to argue if that's true or not.
No.
Yeah,
this ain't an argument. This is like everybody else. I love this is basically just a shot of different ideas.
Right. But I was saying, you said that the earliest people, right? So we either got to go to Egypt or the Sumerians, or we can take it back and go to the Ming Dynasty with the Chinaman and the Orientals and look at how their burial customs is. Because we have eschatologies now where people digging stuff up. You know what I'm saying? We don't have this age of where the information ain't there anymore. So I'm saying, you saying that that we not made out of dirt. I'm curious to see what you think that man is, because you said God put himself into a male. He had to recreate himself, right? So I'm trying to see.
I don't know if God put himself in the body of a man. Some people, I don't know that. You just
saying God is a man, though. You just hold on now.
No, I said God.
I said, or a man can be a God, right?
I said we are. I think if somebody creates you, you have to have their basic fundament. If something breathes life into something else, it has to have the basic fundamentals of the life giver. Not to say that it's exactly the same. So I don't think we're gods to the point where we can create the universe. But I think
like a reflection of your God, then, right?
Yeah, you are Thank you. Yeah, that's the best way to say it. You are a reflection of that.
Because that's why I feel like the white race, they have their own God, which I subscribe to being Iblis, like the Quran call them, or Hashatan, whatever you want to call them. But I feel like they're a creation of that seed, and that's where they come from. I think that's what Genesis 3 is talking about, where God or the Lord had to separate the woman seed from the serpent seed.
Yeah, so it's hard to say. With them, it's a few references in the Bible of the creation of them.
Of course, yeah,
It's a few references. It's a
but I
few
mean,
worldwide references.
right, but like, okay, so we talking about good and evil, then, right?
With them,
Did God create evil then? If God is love, God is kindness, and all this Christian New Testament stuff,
God's not that.
who
That's
created
not God at all.
Okay,
God
right. That's
is.
what I'm saying. Right. That's what I'm saying, because the book don't say that.
God is.
So
God is
so the
everything
God
that
of
we
the
can.
Bible that kills and stuff like that, is he a good God or a bad God?
He is. There's no good or bad to God. I wouldn't try to put a fundamental, rudimentary, emotional, human aspect on God, such as good as evil.
I respect that.
God simply is. He is. That's all it is. Because death isn't even within itself. Death isn't even bad. Killing someone isn't bad in and within itself. People deserve to die. If God didn't understand that people would deserve to die, he wouldn't allow us to. He wouldn't give us the ability to kill each other. Now, some people do it wrong. Some people will use and create. That's why I believe God left instructions through the laws of Moses to say, hey, just to be a fundamentally not horrible creation of mine, do these things. But thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill. You got to try to keep in mind how barbaric the world must have been at that time for that statement to be known. But it had to be said through the laws of Moses for it to be so wild. And even in this day and age, it's still a bunch of murderers. It's still a bunch of rapists, thieves.
Right.
So God isn't good at evil. God is. He understands that people are going to have to die. He understands that everybody's not going to. Free will is a beautiful thing.
That's what the book teaches. It say you ate from the tree of good and evil, so you know you have free will. But it say you can't live forever.
You can't.
So okay, death, right? Let's say somebody dies unjustly, like George Floyd, for example, right?
Yeah.
Did the God of our ancestors do that? Did he judge? Was that a judgment of him, or was that the God of some other people saying we against them and you got the right to do that?
No, that was free will just taking course.
That was we saying over 400 years these people have used free will against others.
Okay, so honestly,
400 years, you said it.
So I do. Like I say, I believe that we are. No, I'm gonna go a little deeper into it. I can't say I fully believe this, but someone spoke to me about this, and it's become a possibility. I don't believe they're natural to the planet, right?
So they're Neanderthals. No, first of all, hold on. You said they're not. That's very interesting. You said that. So, let's say, is the black man natural to the planet?
Yes.
How can you prove that?
It's simple, and this is all science. We can survive in any climate, under any circumstances, on this planet.
Come on, man. No, we can't,
finish.
man.
No, we can't.
We go to Antarctica now.
We can survive in any.
Black people don't like the cold now.
We don't like it, but we can survive it. Hey, I ain't gotta like it, but I've been surviving in Chicago winters a long time. I can go if I move to Alaska, I'm quite sure I can get me some killer animal, get me some fur, wrap myself in that fur and survive.
But that's what I'm saying. So you don't say the white man is from the caves, then?
They can't survive. The way I say they're unnatural to the planet, because things on this planet kills them faster than it kills anybody else on this planet. It kills them when it doesn't kill anybody else on this planet, right? The sun kills them.
They are. That's true.
So the fact that the sun kills you, the sun brings life to everything else. We absorb sunlight and create vitamin D. We absorb sunlight and create vitamin D.
So is it not a curse then to them? Because they still got blood in them.
Is it not a curse?
Here on the earth. I'm talking about whatever we call this, a matrix or a world. They're still here. Like, they're not like fake people. You see what I'm saying? Like, so is that a curse then? Or
it could have been a curse.
Or like, and that's why I said, but I think I agree with your second premise more, that they were made from a different entity.
They could have been. At some point in time, I will say this: they're just not natural to this planet. I don't believe when the earth was made, it wasn't made for them. That's what I'll say. Because I don't have a concrete belief on how they got here. You can go with the Yaqub story with the island and them being grafted. You can go with the story of leprosy in the Bible. And, you know, you can go with the story of some African. I can't remember the guy's name. I can't remember his name. That told me about basically inbred albinoism.
A pig. I think
So it's so many
yeah,
things.
there's so many
So it's a few
doctrines.
things that said, and some of them made sense. Some of them I was like, I don't know, but I can't disprove any of them. But I can just listen to them all and try to make the most sense. Only thing I've gathered from it is they're just not natural.
Okay. All right. Well, let's. No. I wanted to switch up the topic a little bit because I want to talk to you about a couple of different things because I know we'll go all night about that.
Yeah, because I was going to
go all night about that, man.
Everybody can create a dark skinned or a light skinned version of themselves. They can't. They just create that one paleness. They can't produce melatonin. They can't even produce a natural function that every other human on the planet can produce. Japanese, Mexican, Chinese.
So you saying that the white man is? Give your last synopsis on it. That they are not from.
They're not natural. That's all I can say about them. They're just not natural.
Okay, all right, cool.
They don't have nature and they don't have all the formats of nature to be natural.
They don't. I think they kill animals and they
for fun.
Yeah,
even psychologically, create an atomic bomb, harness the atom to use it for destructive force. Now harness the atom to bring unlimited energy to the world.
Right.
Harness the atom to use destructive force.
So what about Area 51 then, and all of that? Is that?
I don't believe God created life on just one planet.
Hold on. Well, so you believe in planets then, right?
I believe that the universe is fruitful with life.
Okay, well, I don't disagree with you there, but we talking about only this planet that we on now. Obviously, we have a race of people here that you saying that are disagreeable people, right?
Yeah.
So, I'll give you my synopsis. My synopsis is that they come from the constellation of Draco or the dragon, like the book say, when it was a great war in the heavens. And they've always been fighting over this planet because it's rich in resources. Just like in the beginning of the book, God spoke about how good the gold was in the land, not only the gold, but the other elements. Right in the beginning of your Bible, where you thought that God was creating it. So with that understanding, I see that they've always been fighting over this planet.
Yeah. I mean, they fought for control of this planet since their first existence on this planet.
But I feel like things existed already on this planet because the books say that he took whatever man was and he made them into their image. That's what it say. It don't say like this was the creation of Earth or anything like that in the language. It don't say that.
So, if we're going off the Bible, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form.
No, in the Hebrew, in Hebrew that it say that different. It says in a beginning. It don't say in the beginning in Hebrew.
Oh, I can believe that. Honestly.
Yeah, it says in a beginning. And like I just got done breaking down, it said even in English, it said refill the earth. It didn't say fill the earth. And even in English, to refill means to put something back that was already down.
So I'm glad you said that because I'm gonna chime in on something. I've argued with my brother about this. My brother's a diehard Christian. I argue with him about it. When it says in the beginning, I believe this is in the beginning of our reality, in the beginning of our run on this planet. I don't know if the planet, it didn't say in the beginning. It says in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It says, and the earth was without form.
Correct. Somebody had to put the spheres around here.
Yeah. Bro. So what I'm saying was the Bible speaks of demolishing the earth and then reseeding the earth with life in Revelations chapter 20. It speaks of the 1,000 years of peace. It speaks of, it doesn't say rapture, but it speaks of the deliverance of God's people, 1,000 years of peace. It speaks of a 7-year tribulation period. Then it speaks of basically God living on earth with his faithful people for 1,000 years.
Yeah, but the God of the Bible used to live on the earth too back in the day.
And then it speaks of God taking those people off the earth and taking them to what I believe they call it New Jerusalem.
I call it the mothership.
Oh, that's the Islamic version of it. But yeah,
Yeah, that's what I call it.
yeah. So I mean, yeah. So if he's gonna live on Earth with us for 1,000 years and take us off Earth, is he just gonna destroy the Earth, or will he just reseed it with life again? Will there be a new in the beginning? What are if I believe in angels, but what are angels? Are angels literally just versions of us that did this already?
No, an angel is just a messenger, according to the Bible. It's
But I
not
mean,
no. You talk
the
about
Bible is
disembodied spirits.
yeah. No, I'm saying that the angel may be a former version of the raptured to me, and it's just a hypothesis. No, nothing I can found this in. There's no proof of this. It's just a
Oh
hypothesis.
yeah, no,
Because I
I
don't
understand.
believe, like I said, you bring up the translation of the Bible, and I'm glad you do that. I don't believe the Bible was translated in the way that we could understand it for what it was. I do believe parts of the Bible are missing. I believe giving us too much of truth about God is a bad thing because you can't control the world when the world knows itself. You can't control a man that knows God. You can't say, hey, get up and work for my company and let me make billions of dollars while y'all pay you pennies and dimes to a man that knows God. You can't do that on a widespread level to a man that knows God. So you can't let this world can't let the general population know God. The people that really know God have understood how to manipulate the world and make the world its playground. There are people in this world right now that nothing can happen to them.
So let me ask you this, then. Do you think that black people at one point in time on earth knew who God was and knew this knowledge?
I believe that God, at some point in time, it's not even a believe. I know for a fact that if you're going to create something, you got to teach it how to survive. After we were created, we were taught how to survive.
So explain to me why we want to be like them so bad then.
I have about 3 or 4 different viewpoints on this, sadly. And that's the worst part about it because I try to stay open. I listen to people's points of view. And then when I'm stuck in the impasse where I can't decide who's right and who's wrong, I just view it as it's a possibility. My father-in-law said that God, that man as we stand today aren't perfect. And he wanted to create a perfect version of us. And to create a perfect version of something, for a coal to become a diamond, it has to go through a ton of pressure. But then it becomes a precious diamond. For in some areas, for water to be drinkable, it has to go through a natural filtration system, just flowing through, creeks and flowing through rocks and sand and mud, and it naturally filters itself. So when you get to it and you drink it, it's fresh water. Nothing that's nothing worth doing is ever easy. Nothing good comes out of easy work. And I believe we are the byproduct of the chosen people. If we are the chosen people, the way that he's going to get us into be the strongest and the best is by putting us through so much pressure. And the ones that die and fold and break are martyrs. And the ones that survive it and come out of it strong, they will become the type of man that can consider itself a god, a type of man that can consider itself worthy of knowledge. Because being a god in and within itself to me doesn't seem like an easy feat. I create something and I have to watch what I create kill itself. I have to watch what I create war. You have to have a great moral compass to just sit back and watch your creation destroy, rape, kill, pillage, salvage, things that you understood, things that I hate to say it, came from a version of you. And watching all the horrible things that you can muster up in your mind come out of your creations and seeing it actually happen has to be a horrible, it has to suck to me. It would suck to me, but I'm a man. I'm not a god. So he may look at it as like, yeah, it's just necessary and it doesn't bother him in the least bit. But from my limited viewpoint of the world, it sucks to me. So I believe he's literally just, if I'm going to take parts of the Bible, parts of the Quran, parts of the Torah, and put it all together and speak of this chosen people, you have to put your chosen, he's grooming his chosen people to become possibly, I can't say I believe this for sure, but it's a possibility. And it makes a little sense that he's using white people to groom us
So
into the.
you agree with the Bible? Did that what the Bible say?
I mean, the Quran speak on it too. A lot of people. I mean, this is one thing that most religions actually agree on. So that's another thing I do. If a few different religions agree on one thing, I kind of take it a little bit more serious, if that makes any sense.
So you're saying that put the books aside, right? But yet some power is using another people to get his people right.
Yeah.
That don't sound right to me. That sounds video gameish to me, because the God of the Bible, when he wanted to go and send something up, he'll come and flood the earth. Right? He'll send it up like he did Sodom and Gomorrah. He didn't have to sit back and let this happen or that happen.
But you gotta keep in mind, I don't believe God is above failure.
Neither do I. The book don't teach that either.
I don't believe they
the God
say God
the Bible had to repent.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Well, see, that's what Christianity teach there, modern Christianity.
Yeah, but they say God is perfect. But you know what's being perfect is? A perfect man fails and overcomes his failure with a new plan.
Right.
No, there's such thing as perfection, but a perfection is basically fixing a wrong. So yeah, he flooded the earth, right? But guess what flooding the earth didn't do? It didn't work. Because when we repopulated, we were still fucked up. Burn Sodom and Gomorrah, guess what it didn't do? It didn't fix the problem.
But who made it fucked up though? The man who has the choice of free will, right?
Yeah.
And the guy in the Bible said no. He said that was bad. He said they weren't supposed to be like that.
He gave it.
It don't say that. It said that somebody tempted them to take that.
But the whole thing, the fact that you can't be tempted means that you have the free will to decide. I'm like this. This is free will. The reason, off the Adam and Eve story, if the Adam and Eve story is to be believed for what it is, God said, "Do whatever you want."
He say that.
Basically, I mean, I'm paraphrasing. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
He said you can eat from any fruit on this. You can eat from any tree from Eden. Just don't eat from the tree of life and knowledge, or whatever the tree was called.
Whatever the metaphor, right? Whatever the story said.
So, with that being said, the moment you have to tell somebody don't do something, you gave them the free will to do it, but you had to give them the disclaimer. Free will was established through Adam and Eve. The moment I got to tell my children don't do this, see, if they don't have free will, I don't have to tell them what to do and what not to do. They're pre-programmed to already do what I want them to do. But because my children have free will, I have to tell my children, no, you can't just eat candy all day. Because if they were just pre-programmed, if Adam and Eve was pre-programmed, he didn't have to give them a disclaimer not to do this. They would have been pre-programmed not to disobey God. They weren't pre-programmed not to disobey God. They were programmed to make decisions. He allowed them to make them.
No, that's not true. They made man to be he made him to be a tiller in the garden. And it said that was it.
But he gave them a decision making. But didn't he give them the ability to make decisions by telling somebody not to do something? They have the ability to do it.
Him telling them not to do that is like how you said a parent saying, look, this is here. I created it. This is my steak. You see what I'm saying? Don't touch that. You know what I'm saying? You can touch anything else. There's all this yours, you know what I'm saying? Woo. But just don't touch my steak. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's free will though. Because if they do touch it, that means they had free will.
I don't think that's free will. I think that is a commandment. Like let's say you tell your child not to do something. You would be mad for them disobeying your command, right?
Yeah.
Now, you saying that they have free will to freely choose, but the book don't say that. The book says that they were obedient to that command because they knew they created it. I'm going to respect my father, but somebody told them that, man, don't do that. If you can have some of that steak and you're going to be nice and full too.
See, that's the whole thing about free will though. Free will ended with this if you don't have free will, you don't have the ability to disobey the order. Commandments were given because free will was given. Now, I'm going to tell you not to do it, and I may expect you to follow my commandment. But the reason I have to give you the commandment is because I gave you a mindset to move freely. I didn't pre-program you to only follow my will. I gave you free will, and I'm going to give you a set of guidelines that you have to exercise your free will under.
So
you
when
have
okay, go ahead. Yeah.
so if a commandment isn't even needed for someone that doesn't have free will. I don't have to tell somebody that doesn't have free will to do anything. They're going to only do what I limited them to doing. If God created man and he created man to just follow his orders, we would never sin. We would just literally, if we didn't have free will and we were only programmed to do the right thing, if we were only programmed to think of right things and do right things and didn't have free will, we would just be robots.
A slave race. Say
Basically,
it.
a robot.
Just say it. That's because that's what they that's what they created man to do. And I've been.
But he gave. No, see, the difference is though.
Because look at the animal kingdom now, or let's look at the plants, for example, right?
Those are slaves. Those are slaves to the earth.
Well, what was mankind? Listen.
Mankind is the most. Now I'm saying we don't do what lions do. We don't do what tigers do.
We don't do our food and stuff, man.
And we do hunt for our food, but we can go to the grocery store too.
That's because man, is smarter or was put above the animals.
Yep, so, and know how we're. That's the difference between us and animals.
Okay, right. We do have that mental. Now you saying just having a brain, right? A bigger brain, right? Is free will. I disagree with that.
I don't think having a bigger brain is free will. I'm saying
that's what it sounds like to me.
Having the ability to decide if you're going to follow or if you will or won't be, if you're going to disobey or obey God, is free will. Having the ability, even if you're tricked into doing it, if you don't have free will, you can't be tricked into disobeying God. If you have free will, you can be tricked. A lion can't be tricked into not being a lion.
Right, okay.
A lion is going to, even a domestic dog is still basically a descendant of a wolf. And when that dog walks, you take a dog for the walk, what does it do? It pisses 50 times. And it's not even really peeing. It's literally just marking its territory. It's still doing
with nature.
It doesn't have free will. A dog is only going to be a dog.
It is free will.
No, it's not. No, that's programmed. That's a programmed mentality of a dog to mark its territory. It's programmed. He has no control over it. I've never seen, the way I can say he has no control over it, because I've never seen a dog not do it.
But you see a dog get trained in the house not to do it though. So what are you talking about?
They don't do it in the house because.
But that's free will. That goes in. I'm not talking about free will. I'm talking about knowledge of good and evil, because that's what the books say, right? So so in the house, you know that's bad, right? And then outside, you know that's good, right?
Yep.
You have the decision to be a bad dog or a good dog, because you can pee wherever you want. You can pee on yourself right now if you want to. You see what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is that there is a barometer, which we call good and evil, that man now has the ability to pick from. And before that, they didn't have that. It was you use it outside and don't use it in here. That was the law. That was the code.
See, good and evil on that level is like so. For instance, with a dog, it's not the option of do it outside or do it in here. It's basically a what do they call it? A stimuli. It's basically they pee in the house, you punish them for peeing in the house. You attribute the punishment to the pee in the house. Every time they pee in the house, they understand it's a punishment, so they try not to pee in the house. It's basically it's basically slavery. And a house pet is a slave. As long as
it's not humans slaves to the creator?
Humans, I don't believe we're slaves to the creator.
See, so because that's that Gnosticism stuff now. And that Luciferian stuff now.
I'll say why we're not slaves to the creator.
YOLO.
I'll say why we're not slaves to the creator. Our punishment is indiscriminate, right? You could be the most faithful God server and try to do everything right just based off Christianity. If I go off Christian views, based off the laws of Moses, based off what is expected of a good. Oh yeah, I mean that would be a Jewish, but yeah, based off.
Hello. got disconnected, family.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I think you
I'm
back.
off fault. Yeah. So you can follow the laws of Moses and still live and still have a pretty bad life and feel like you're punished for everything you do. You can be the worst person on this planet and be showered with riches and glory. Our response in this world isn't based off if we're doing the right things will happen to us. If we're doing the wrong thing, bad things will happen to us. Because if that was the case, the hierarchy of the world would be a lot different. We would have tolerable governments. We would have, you know, a
You talking
well.
about two different things now, but go ahead, man.
I'm saying. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like when the dog, they're. That's why we're not slaves. We're not slaves to creative because the people that are most fruitful in this world are pretty fucked up. They don't follow the creator's plan. They don't follow his commandments.
So
They
isn't
don't
that
follow.
why they messed up?
Yeah, but then they're rich. They don't have a single punishment for not following his commandments yet. I don't know if there's going to be a hell for them. I don't know what happens to them. If there's no hell, they just die. Lived a great life, breaking every rule, and they just die. I do believe there's some sort of punishment that will be handed out, though. I can't prove it, but I do
That's what the
believe there
book.
is.
I mean, the book teach that. They talk about the when the wicked is in ruling and everything is all good for them. It says surely they will fall by their own net. And
So
I see
that's why I
that
don't
all
know
the
if it's
time. Like
slavery.
some drug dealer, you know what I'm saying? Like he done wronged the whole neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Then all of a sudden he get killed or he get robbed or something like that.
But then you
That
have people
goes
like the
into you.
Rothschilds.
But see, that goes into that, and that's why I say that's two different topics though, because according to the book now, it say that different people will you have to. Everybody gets a fair shot of ruling this earth. And that's what the book say. It say that this is their term. Like if you go back to Egypt, we say Egypt ruled, right? You want to go
Yeah,
back
they
to the
did.
Babylonians, right? We say that then the Greeks and the Romans. We even say the Romans is still ruling because America is an off branch of the Romans, right? But we also have where Negroes or blacks rule, which were in Nubia, as well as in Israel when it was an independent state.
Yeah, I mean, Babylonians did their thing for some years.
They did, but they say that's where the gods first landed at. And that's where
Ne-
they set up.
what was his name? Nebuchadnezzar.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, I think.
Nebuchadnezzar in the book say that God, the God in the Bible calls Nebuchadnezzar his servant. He said he gonna use Nebuchadnezzar to punish the Jews or the Israelites because they weren't really listening to him. So it's very interesting that this book or this Bible is talking about people like Sennacherib, Nebuchadnezzar, Xerxes, and all these people who we could find in history, right? But then when we go to look for the history of the Negroes, right? You got to dig a little bit deeper to really find that history. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm not here to tell nobody, oh, if you do good and you follow the laws of Moses, you're going to be rich. I ain't saying that. But what I am saying that if you do keep the common laws of Moses, like being good to your own neighbor, which is your own fellow brother, not killing or stealing from your own brother, you will receive positive energy or good karma from doing those things. And I'm a witness of it because I done went from a lifestyle where I did wrong and now I do right. You follow me? But
Yeah.
that goes into something they don't even need a Bible about. The Chinese were talking about that in the yin and the yang, or what you would call the Quan Chi or the Chi meditation. You see what I'm saying? And that would go back into this knowledge of good and evil. And to know what good and evil is, right, is now giving you the decision to do, are you going to do good or are you going to do evil? And like you were saying, we all have free will. We do. So if somebody want to take a gun and shoot themselves in the head and commit suicide, guess what? They can do it. You see what I'm saying? Do that make it right? No. I, of course I say no. But I'm not going to argue and say that they don't have the decision to make that, because that's why I go back to the book and say that, well, according to that parable in that garden, that's what this creation or these Adamites or whatever you want to call us, these Homo sapiens, we have the ability of good. We know good and evil, and we have the choice to pick from that.
I
But
just
the
follow the
Bible
man.
say that it wasn't supposed to be like that. That's why people don't want to be Jews, because it's a whole bunch of laws and stuff in there that you gotta do, and that's what you gotta do. And the Jews, they're like, man, that's too hard. I'm going around these other people, and they don't gotta do all of that. I want to do what they want to do. Too. They want to have fun and they want to eat pork. You feel me? It ain't no reason why the Quran or the Bible is telling people not to eat pork. When you don't, if you study science and go and look what the pork or the pig was made to do, right? And I didn't make
Pig
no
is a
pig.
scavenger of the earth. It
It
cleans up
is a
the waste of the
scab. It
earth.
cleans it up. So you eating that will automatically give high blood pressure or make your blood thicker to where now it can't flow to certain parts because your arteries clogged up.
I mean, the pig has another worst factor in it. The tracheotic worm resides in its flesh,
We can go on and on and on
and
about that pig.
yeah, the worm, resides in its flesh, and it can survive up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm. And that's
So
what I'm
you can't even
saying.
cook it off the pig.
Why is the Bible not being taught in schools then if it's telling people not to eat pig? Or why is the white man telling everybody you can get 2 for $5 bacon cheeseburgers for the low?
Because people,
sausage biscuits for the low.
I say the
in
people
the poor
that
neighborhoods.
People that know the truth,
right?
Don't eat the pig, but they make the pig the cheapest meat you can buy.
That's what I'm saying. So who's is not another race of people making God's people willfully sin?
Yeah, it is. I said that. That's what I say. They
you
are
did say that. You did say that.
I said I personally believe that there's a race of people that is literally trying to expose us to the worst things in the world. They introduce us to homosexuality at a young age. They introduce us to warped versions of knowledge at a young age. Our education system doesn't teach us education. Everything is done to keep us in a servitude. Like, yeah, although we freed from physical bondage, they will never let us escape this mental bondage. And I mean, I honestly appreciate it on a weird level where you're gonna think I'm crazy, but that giving us the worst of everything, every black man now to this day, I believe, is basically genetically stronger than anybody else because we've survived. It's selective breeding to me. We are basically descendants of the most resilient people to ever live on this earth.
Correct.
We're descendants
don't act
of the
like
people.
It, but you're right.
Yeah, I mean, they don't understand. That's the worst part about it, that we don't know it. But we are. We are descendants of the strongest people that survived things that I can't even imagine. People that overcame.
Haven't they been trying to eradicate us though?
And we still survive. Yeah, they've been trying to eradicate us for years.
So that's what I'm saying. Like a few races of people have been wiped off the earth. If you study eschatology and history, though, but the thing that they say about black people or the Jews, right? One of their covenants that they made with this God is that you're going to be fruitful and you're going to multiply. And you're going to be real fruitful on the earth. And I see that as black people.
I mean, you got to keep in mind, you can't kill the original without killing yourself.
So you think that do you think we Africans? Or how do you feel about that?
I believe we are earthlings.
Come on, man. Come on. Don't be scared. Talk to me now, man.
No, I'm talking to you.
Is an African and a Negro the same?
I believe in the Pangea.
Me too.
I believe there was a point in time on this earth where the only thing this earth knew was animals and us. I believe that we are human reality. We are human.
Right,
I believe we are. Everything else is something that was derived from us. But I believe humanity started with us, humanity ends with us, and humanity only can survive with us.
So you went to Lane Tech. Why do different people have different cultures then? If people is all one, like you saying, right?
Evolution. And lies. Struggles for power. People.
But it wouldn't have to be like that. If we was all humans, like at one point in time, like the book say, before the Tower of Babel, right, and the languages and stuff.
Yeah, the language was split,
right.
And nobody can even communicate with each other.
Right.
So what would you do? I'm gonna go to the people I can communicate with, and we're gonna start our own sector of the world.
So who did that then? According to you, like who diversified the tongue? So
God.
is that a higher power? Okay, a higher power. Okay.
I believe God diversified the tongue because I do believe because we have free will, some of us got cocky.
So that mean that we were supposed to be slaves then? Because if let's say we did have free will and God just made us to do whatever we wanted to do, He wouldn't have had to confuse us like that. You see what I'm saying?
So I believe we have free will, and I believe because we have free will, I believe that we overstepped our boundaries. And because we overstepped our boundaries, I believe we had to be brought back down to reality. And he's brought us back down to reality way too many times, to the point that he decided to put something on this planet to make us suffer a little bit.
He did. The coronavirus, he said it's coming from the heavens.
So I believe that, I do believe that, and I think this is proof that all of our great accomplishments of the world can't be replicated to this day. It's things that we've done on this planet that can't be replicated or can't be understood how we did it with what we did at the time. But I think that we were literally had to be brought back down to reality. Like, yeah, you are gods, but you're not me. And the version of, hey, you're not me is I will put you under the boot heel of something weaker than you to show you you're not me. And the people that learn and grow from understanding that they're not me, then they can readdress me. I think God hid himself from the world to make us suffer.
So basically, you saying the people who are trying to make themselves like gods on the earth are not the people of God then? Or no, they don't agree with God?
I think I think at some point in time, there were people on the earth that were us. I'm gonna say it's black people on the earth that overstepped their boundaries.
I'm talking about the people on the earth right now in 2020. The people,
2020,
like the people who are trying to act like God on the earth, right?
Oh, they were put here to do that.
So even back then, right, too.
I don't think back then they were put here to do that. I think back then we were put here. I believe we were put here to serve God, not as a slave, but serve by
following. What is a servant? See, now you playing with a servant and a slave is the same thing. And you just said, I guess slave has a bad connotation, but like I get on the Christians about, I said, even if you're a Christian white lady, I'm not going to call you a slave, but you're going to be a servant in God's kingdom because you're not an active Jew.
So this is the whole thing I'll say about servant and slave. That's I take as a difference. A slave is someone who is forced to perform an act for the benefit of the master. A servant is someone who agrees to perform an act for the benefit of someone else. So if I serve you, let's say you decided you want to build a company, and I say, I am a service to you. I'm at that point in time, I'm a servant. I can always renege my servitude, but I am serving you and trying to bring your dreams and your goals into fruition. So when I say you're supposed to serve God, I say that we should be willingly and actively bringing his goals into fruition. We should be traveling the stars by now. We should be expanding on his knowledge, or not expanding on it, but understanding his knowledge, grasping his knowledge, and moving ourselves to be closer to him. We should basically be able to sit down and have a conversation with him.
They ain't doing that though. As you can see, they took all that knowledge.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. I think he gave it to him. I don't think they took it. I think
how you think he? Well, he might. Listen, I ain't even gonna say.
I don't say he gave. He allowed them to obtain
them, right? He allows them to do that as a punishment to us because it will only fulfill how he can. Because believe it or not, there are some good black people out here, dude. And for him, that's what I'm saying. So he has to redeem the good portion of this wicked race that we are part of. And I get on black people all the time. We do some wicked shit, bro. Like, we do. Now, we can talk about whose fault it is or systematic racism and global economics and things of that nature. But overall, by nature, our people, they like to do things that ain't of God. It is what I would say.
Hence
that makes sense. So you have to have an equalizer. You got to have an equalizer.
I think our servitude on this planet at this moment of life is legitimately, and this is one thing I will agree with, and this is a Nation of Islam teaching that I learned it from the Nation of Islam on this level. I do believe that God was so displeased with us that we probably got so cocky that he decided, I am going to punish y'all now. I am going to bring you back. He's humbling us now. This is our humbling phase.
Right, yeah.
You know, like I say, when we were first created, we were children. We were very, very close to God. This is our teenage rebellious years, and we have to be humbled. Every
The
so
sins
often,
of our forefathers, yeah.
yeah. So every so often, you got to be fed to the dogs. You got to let the world take its course. This is God's version of punishment for us. I mean, this is his version of, you know, you let him feed them to the wolves a little bit. Let them go out there and taste the world. God is basically allowing us to understand what he could do if we don't do it right the next time. So when we're delivered out of this, hopefully we become out of it, and hopefully in 1,000 years, even if it takes in 200 years or 400 years or 1,000.
I get that we get to the end of this thing.
When we at the end of this phase of existence, our predecessors, our predecessors, no, he's a predecessor. What is it? Our descendants. I'm sorry, descendants. I'm trying to think the right word. Our descendants will look back at the folly of our generations and the generations that came before us and the generations that came 5,000 years before us. You had Ramses and Ra basically acting like they were the king of the damn world, building pyramids and pyramids of themselves. Because God says in his Bible, he says in the Bible, I am a jealous God. Like, I will give you everything you need, but don't forget that I'm still the supreme being. And I believe man, we're trying to act like the supreme being, hence the pyramids, why they still stand to this day. So we can have that remembrance of a man that decided I was going to create such a great monument for myself. It lasted 5,000 years, probably longer than that. And that's just a remembrance of the man that decided to make this great monument to himself. He didn't make a monument to God. He made it a great monument to himself. You know, Stonehenge, I don't know what they were there for, but I can imagine it was some dude that decided to make a monument to himself.
Deal with astrology. All that stuff deal with astrology. Even the pyramids.
I think they just use astrology for the building of it, but it was still a monument. I mean, you're going to bury yourself in this monument to yourself. You're not worthy of that monument. You don't build this monument that's survived 5,000 to 6,000 years down the lineage, and there's no monument for God like that. So that's why I think why the punishment was handed down, because I think somewhere down the line, we stopped giving God credit for his greatness in this planet. We stopped giving God the credit he deserved for his greatness. And our punishment was, I would strip you of all your glory. We were stripped of all our glory as the original people of this planet. And then the second person of this planet was introduced. Was it through evolution? I don't know. Was it through he just popped up one day? Probably. But I don't even think it was just the set, because I mean, you had you got the Asians that came out of it. And then the Mexicans, the Indians, and all those people, they're just basically us. I mean, we share so close of a genealogy to the Mexicans, the Aztecs, the Native Americans, and all that.
Yeah, they're the northern tribes of our people.
Yeah, they're just us. But you have people like the Asians that are some weird mixture. I don't know. I mean, they could have just.
That's what I was going to ask you, because you got to remember, it's people groups on the earth that still, you got to say, okay, where they come from then?
So with the Asians, I have a somewhat scientific explanation for them. After the Tower of Babel, I do believe that everybody that had a different language, they split to a certain part of the earth. I don't believe that white people were here at this time, though. I don't believe white people were there at the time of the Tower of Babel. I know for a fact Nebuchadnezzar, however you pronounce his name, was a black guy. Because ain't nobody that bold to build a Tower of Babel saying, yeah, I'm a grip. But so the fact that he was able to build this tower lets us know how cocky he was. This is the level of his cockiness.
You talking about Nimrod?
Nebuchadnezzar, whatever his name was.
No, you talking about Nimrod, who built that tower.
Oh, that tower, yeah. Nebuchadnezzar. Oh, you're right. Nebuchadnezzar was the king of the Babylonians.
Nebuchadnezzar came later down the road.
Yeah, he was the king of the Babylonians. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. So Nebuchadnezzar was the king of the Babylonians, and he's the one that God made eat grass and act like he was a cow. He kept building like the gold cow monuments.
Right. We got a lot of evidence of Nebuchadnezzar walking on the earth.
Yeah. So with the Tower of Babel time with Nimrod, yeah, it is. Damn, it is Nimrod. That's what I say. I don't use Google as a reference. I try to use my memory.
No,
Um,
yeah.
with Nimrod, when he built the Tower of Babel, when the language was a split, I believe that everybody split to the people that spoke the same language, they split to a different sector of the Pangea at the time. And when I think that God's next trick was, you guys are so cocky together, I'm going to split you up. These people have this version of knowledge. These people have this version of knowledge. These people know this. These people know that. Y'all can't communicate with each other. Crack and split. The Pangea was split to different parts. The world shifted. And then due to different climates of that part of the shift of the Pangea is how you got the different races. Whereas, for instance, the people that stayed on the Africa area, they needed a thicker hair and a broader nose to breathe through the extreme heat of Africa. They needed the thicker, coarse hair to protect their scalps from the sun. People that got shifted to India still needed the dark skin to absorb the sunlight, but the sun wasn't so beaming on their head that their hair was able to grow straight and flow as opposed to a coarse hair. People in Asia, land of the rising sun, the sun is so bright that their eyes naturally squinted just to deal with the sun. They basically walked around squinting so much that their body said, all right, because our bodies evolved. Their body said, it's time to make this adjustment now. I don't want to have to make it where you have to do this every day, so I'll just make your eyes lower. Their bodies just literally adapted to their environment. I believe that's what happened to all the races of people. That when the world split, their languages followed, and everybody adapted to their surroundings. They're adapted to their habitats.
I've heard this. I've heard that stance before. That's more of a modern understanding of it because this goes into evolution, and it also talks about migration patterns and things like that, which I do study. I study migration patterns a lot, but I don't. I still just don't see. I just don't see DNA or features that are outside or outer body being from the separation of Pangea. I see that as each guy having their own people, and they made their own people, and that's they put them in their own lands. That and now people, like you said, like we talk about who have free will, who wander off because of a famine sometimes, or maybe because you're a hunter gatherer people and you have to go and hunt somewhere else. You come across some people that got what you need. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that was a precursor into what we would see as far as the wars going on. It's like how we talk about the white man coming out the Caucasus Mountains. We was down in Africa cooling and chilling with our African dances. We was doing all our things. They the ones who came down to us, fighting us. You see what I'm saying? And that's the disagreeable seed that was put on the earth, even though they tried to eradicate it or put them in caves, they still have free will, just like the black man has free will. The problem with the black man is that the black man is too forgiving or friendly. He has a spirit inside of him which teaches him to be forgiving. And it's only against their own that you will have hatred for or rage, which is a divine curse. And I'm talking about, I done seen people go from Christianity and worship the same God that the slave masters worship, and then you didn't get delivered. I done seen black people try to build up Black Wall Street or create their own communities, and I've seen them get burned to the ground. I've seen black people go to El Islam, and they did all their daily salats and the hundreds and hundreds of rak'ats, and they still have wars going on in the Middle East. So obviously the religion or these newer religions that, because we know Christianity and Islam have just sprung up on the earth, right?
Yeah, Christianity is roughly 2020 years old.
These are the newer religions on the earth.
Islam is about 1600 years old.
Correct. Now, we look at them as divine revelations that came, you know what I'm saying, in the midst of our people, but I can't look at things that have so many different sects of them, right, to be true. Just like I say, I am a Messianic, but I don't deal with modern Christianity. I don't deal with a lot of parts of the New Testament, specifically the Pauline epistles. You see what I'm saying? Now it took me a lot of studying to get that way, but these are tools by our oppressor, I would say, right?
Yeah. I
To
mean,
make us argue amongst each other, because any way to get the Jews arguing amongst each other is to take their minds off their God-given divinity to take care of I would say the mission that each person on the earth has to take care of. And that's what I see on the earth. Most of our people, I'm not gonna say all, but I see most of our people distracted. And they're distracted by the tools of, I would say, the left hand side. Because we still got the choice to do it, but they just make it look so fun. You got somebody biting out that big old bacon cheeseburger, it looks so good. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I can say that's one of my first statements, that the version of the world we live in now is full of lies. Everything is used to make us get further from where we should be. Our whole existence is to make us further than what we should be. Like the fact that we aren't, and then when you say every God has his own people, honestly, I say this because I'm gonna be straightforward. That is a sentiment that I'm scared to believe, to be truthfully honest. And I'm scared to believe it because if every people has his own God, and there's an actual God of the white people, that means that their God is kicking my God's ass right now.
Well, that's what worship was all about. Like back in the ancient time, worship or the worship of the gods is what empowered them. And when the people group stopped worshiping their deity, what would happen? Their land or their god couldn't perform his is video gameish or Captain Planet it sounds. That's how the ancients looked at it. Now they did start to get into element worship, and you started making gods out of everything. I'm not saying that didn't happen, right? But overall, the gist of it was like, look, we are a group of gods. We control the waters here. We defeated whatever the waters was, and then we through our knowledge, through our father's knowledge, right? Because they say it was the sons of God, right? That mixed with the daughters of men. So they said the sons of gods, and I'm talking about this is in the Canaanite literature called the Baal cycle. And they say that El had 70 sons, and over the 70 provinces of the earth, he gave them people groups. And the God or the Lord, that like the Bible say Lord right before God. The Lord was the landlord for the people group or whatever. So whenever a people group didn't follow the laws or the customs of the land, you follow me, they would be subjective to infiltration. And what the Jews always got in trouble in the book was worshiping Baal or Ishtar, the siblings of their deity, but they would worship the other deity because the other deity was less strict than our God. Our God was very strict with the Torah, as you can see. So I put all that together and I look at it like, well, dang, well, that makes a little sense. Not in the laws of mankind or like in the looking at it in the sense, because anybody looking at my stance is like, well, what kind of God you worshiping? That's a mean God. Like that don't make sense. But then if you look at the overall setup of what they thought was going to happen, right, it would make sense then that people follow this universal laws. Like if you go look in the Hammurabi Code or like even the 42 laws of Ma'at, where people always say, well, the Bible just stole all these laws from them, from ancient Kemet or the Akkadians with the Hammurabi Code, right? Those were all universal laws for what we would call a mankind. That's just extra biblical sources. They still saying the same thing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody try to say that something bit off another source of knowledge, and I just say that truth transcends generations. You know, even though you may call it, because language adapts, languages have adapted since the beginning of I don't know what the first people, how they talk to each other at all. I don't know what form of communication they use to communicate with each other. I would assume Arabic, because Arabic would probably be that's the most ancient language I know of. So it may have been Arabic, possibly, or some form of Arabic or some derivative.
What about cuneiform? They say, according to historians and scholars, They say cuneiform was the first. Well, I'm talking about writing style. You talking about language, then that'll be a different topic.
So language, writing style, it's kind of hard.
They say cuneiform, but some people say the Meduneta too from ancient Egypt.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think. The Aztecians, they kind of date around the same time as the Egyptians do.
Really?
The Mayans. I'm sorry, the Mayans.
Oh, the Mayans.
The Mayans. I'm sorry, the Mayans. The Mayans date about 5,000 to 7,000 years back. The Egyptians date roughly around the same 5,000 to 7,000 years back.
So how do you feel about how they built their pyramid? Because I've studied both of them, and they built their pyramids different. Like the Mayans had a step pyramid, and they had a square at the top, compared to the ancient Egyptians, who they had a few step pyramids, but over time in a pre-dynastic period, they started smoothing them out into that triangular shape. Do that go to knowledge of things, or is that like?
I think there was a top cap. I'm gonna be straightforward. I think there was a top cap. I don't see a king building a pyramid, and if it were to be a pyramid, I think it was a top cap on most pyramids. Some type of jewel treasure.
Gold conducts electricity. They were saying that some of those pyramids were lightning almost conductors.
I think that Europe kind of stole every top part of the pyramid because it was a precious something, and the Europeans
is the most precious element.
Yeah. So I think that whatever was at the top of the pyramids can be what we see now can be used to describe what it was. I think I know for a fact they pillaged all the pyramids.
Yeah, of course. You can tell by the carbon date in the shadows of there that they said they were capped with gold.
Yeah, so they kind of pillaged them. After they pillaged them, the way they